the dead. And yeah, last week was Independence Day and all these other lovely things on top of each other. So
Right.
yeah, how was your Independence Day?
My Independence Day was quite good. I hung out with family, friends. I could go as far as calling them family, but and we, went to the carnival and like looked at fireworks and stuff, and walked around and made fun of people, stuff like that. Now, but I don't know. It was pretty fun, and we
was it start a fight and leave? No.
But yeah, it was. No, it was a fun time, and yeah. How about yours?
Well, I would say that I spent a good proportion of the day with one of the most libertarian people in this entire country.
Wow, well that sounds fun.
That was nice. It was, yeah. It was a pretty good afternoon. Now the important thing is, did you do what you wanted to do?
Did I do what I wanted to do?
Yes, I mean, after all, it's Independence Day, right?
Oh, true. Good point. Let's see. Well, I would have rather probably been doing some Culling Sacred Cow stuff and then been able to do that stuff afterwards. So technically not completely, but I did have an obligation since all of our families were together, and it would be
that's still a huge thing.
Yeah,
it's a huge thing. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go have those kinds of expectations with anyone.
Exactly. So yeah, no, but I mean, in general, I did what I wanted, and it was nice. It was a good time.
And then you said you weren't feeling particularly well before then.
No, I was, and even during that day, still didn't feel the best. I don't know what I had. Something, either allergies or something. But I was like feverish and just extremely tired all the time.
That ain't allergies.
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah, it was probably something. Yeah, and I don't know. It's still like I biked yesterday and got very dizzy. I think there's something in the air at that time, because I was getting a headache and dizzy from breathing in something. And obviously, when you exercise, yeah, it probably wasn't. Yeah, it was. Wait, one sec. My hands. Yeah, but obviously, when I exercise, you breathe in more air, right? So, it exacerbates
like the
whatever.
Phil Collins song. I can feel it coming.
Yes, exactly like that. Yeah, that's a great song.
I still remember my brother would eat bean dipper chili, and then when he would feel a fart coming, he'd just start singing the Phil Collins song and then let one.
Oh my god, that was hilarious. That's too funny.
That's the kind of person I grew up with.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's too funny. Let's see, do we have any? Oh yeah, we have 2 viewers right now.
Oh wow, lovely.
I think one's including me. I think so.
Well, then would that make me the other viewer?
Well, are you watching?
Well, I mean, I'm following to try to get to the chat, but nothing.
If you're not watching the stream specifically, then I don't think you count as a viewer.
Okay, I see.
If you are, then you do.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having trouble finding the chat.
Interesting.
I see the chat, but I haven't been able to see anything that anyone has written.
Yeah, no one's written anything.
Okay.
So yeah, you're not missing anything. I don't think.
Oh, good. Hey, at least we're streaming in 1080p.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, we're streaming in 1080p. Look at the quality.
Yeah, it is much better. Yeah, quite good.
So when this thing gets uploaded to YouTube, it's actually going to look good.
Awesome.
Funny thing, they let you upload, but they don't let you stream.
Yeah, that's sort of weird, isn't it? So they still haven't come. They still haven't said anything back to you.
Mm-mm.
Jesus. Oh, that's annoying.
I mean, I don't really have that high expectations, but
Right. Well, of course. Yeah. That's just still sort of annoying.
so my bit of ADHD is coming up because I can only remember the Linda Silverman article, and I can't remember what it was that you said that you actually wanted to share before that.
Well, I don't know. I was talking about
Competition.
competition, yeah,
Hmm.
and not necessarily in the economic sense, just in like competitive pressure sense. Because I've been watching quite a bit of StarCraft 2 recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only game I play, and it's got a very strong competitive scene. Like, the top players, if they win tournaments, can make hundreds and thousands of dollars from just that. And so it's got lots of, I mean, and it's quite intensive. Like you have to be doing a lot of stuff, but also when you're on, most people practice online, right? Like in their house, and they're on their computers playing for hours and hours a day, getting better, playing on the ladder. But then there's the offline competitions, and they, it's much more. You're sitting on a stage in a booth with a computer in front of you, and there's a crowd, and the other players in the other booth, and you guys are playing like a best of 5 or a best of 7 series, and so there's a lot of pressure and stuff, and
there's no way
it's interesting. Some players,
it's either win or lose.
yeah,
Okay,
and yeah, it's either win or lose, and of course, it's not like only the winner wins money and the rest people. No, like if you're second place, but it's like a fraction, right, of like the winners take
probably a
home.
Pareto distribution.
Yes, right, exactly. And so I've just been certain players certain players get the crumble under that sort of situation. They're known as good offline or good online players. Like if you met them on the ladder, they'd be quite good, but like.
So they destroy you in a game, but then if you go up against them face to face in one of these situations, you could go and hand in their butt.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's certain players who thrive under it, who are like, they're okay, but they're good at planning their series, so they play different styles each game to like throw off their opponent. Sometimes they are really aggressive and rush, and sometimes they lay back. They do a lot of, and they just some play really well under that pressure. And it's like that competitive pressure. Some people really thrive on it and enjoy it, and others, get put off by it. So it's interesting.
For the sake of expanding this into other realms as well as StarCraft, and then we can go and bring it back to StarCraft or whatever it is that you were going to say. But I wanted to bring up there's a guy that people from Finland all pretty well know. His name is Kimi Räikkönen. And I remember one of the most impressive things that I've seen in racing in recent years was when his power steering failed. And then he started driving better than before his power steering failed.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's really crazy.
So,
right, some people...
It takes a certain degree of pressure, at least from what I've seen, it takes a certain degree of pressure to even get Kimi to come out of his shell at all. But then when he does, he actually shows up. I mean, he's an IST something, probably ISTJ, really an EG dude. That thrives under pressure.
Right.
And is just completely cool as a cucumber otherwise. I mean, they nicknamed him the Iceman.
I think I've heard of someone else nicknamed the Iceman, but he was
That was the serial killer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was the dude from New York.
Yeah, he was like a hitman and stuff. I think. Yeah. But still, I mean, both of the guys who, share that nickname are probably pretty cool under pressure.
Yeah. But anyhow, you were saying about the things that make people thrive under pressure as opposed to what makes them crumble. And you're using StarCraft as an example. I don't know if you intended to continue.
Yeah. Yeah, if I continued into it, I'd say... Well, okay, so my favorite player was kind of like a... My favorite player, he's banned now, which I'll get into, but...
From competing on the ladder or from...
No, competing on... just. I mean, he could play on the ladder if you wanted, but you're not winning money on the ladder. But he's banned from competing in tournaments and like making money. Because he match fixed once when he was like 17, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I mean, he was like a prodigy kind of like at the game. He was 15 when he like entered the scene and like won some huge tournaments and won like over $100,000 within his debut year, and he's like 15 years old. And he played extremely aggressively, and he played like really like. He played a style of game that would basically throw people off their tempo a lot because he's like harassing them a whole bunch. And like would basically make people like freak out, right? Like if they're not defending perfectly and they start messing up, it's like snowball effect, and he just would like.
So that would be like Mikhail Tal in chess. He wouldn't play the best moves necessarily, but he would just play things to completely blow it up so that nobody's preparation would work against him.
Exactly, and precisely like that, and he really would make really good players look like shit. Like he just throw them under the bus, kind of, and just just steamroll them. And like some players were just extremely like weak against this style of play. Some did fine. And I mean, the thing was, he was a mechanically great player since he started so young. Like his mechanics were amazing. He was really fast, and he was a very instinctual player. He didn't like go by he wasn't like reading off of a build order or something. He was doing things off instinct and off the fly.
So it was optimal sub-optimization for each circumstance.
Right. And he, so he was very he won so many tournaments, and he would have slouch years where he's like, oh, well, I only won one major tournament this year. This is a bad year for me. Like, oh boy. And like for most people, winning that major tournament would be the highlight of their career type thing. Mm-hmm. And he was just really, but the thing was, he also, on the side, he developed, I think, a gambling addiction. I mean, he loved pressure, and he loved these chances. And his builds would be like, well, if they do a certain thing, like this could get countered really hard, and you're going to be in you're going to be in a deficit, and you're going to have to make up for lost ground in the game. But he would just go for these sort of like high risk, high reward stuff. And the way he played was just really
high risk, high reward, but a positive expected outcome.
Yeah,
at least based off of all the information that he had.
Right.
Whereas there would be a positive expected outcome for other people's stuff, except for it would be to a lesser extent.
Right, exactly.
But more consistent.
Exactly. And he wasn't extremely consistent, exactly. Like sometimes he'd show up and just destroy everyone. Sometimes he'd get knocked out by a lesser player. But he was really entertaining to watch. Mm-hmm. And I mean, especially since he was so young, and he started so young, and he played throughout, like, I think he got banned when he was like 19 or 20, like, I'm pretty sure 19. And,
so he'd been playing for maybe 5 years.
Yeah, 4 to 5 years he'd been playing, and he'd won already half $500,000 in prize money. And that's just in prize money, so sponsorships and his salary and all that stuff. Like, he's made over $1 million.
I'm assuming some processor companies and computer companies and gaming accessory companies and so on probably
stuff like
paying
that.
Out the wazoo to put their names on his computer or shirts or
exactly
the pens that he uses to sign girls' boobs or whatever.
Exactly, and yeah, so he. So he apparently he lost 2 games when he was 17 purposely, and some like minor tournament or minor thing. It wasn't like a big, so he lost on purpose for $70,000, but it was probably because he had such a gambling addiction, and he was like, I want money, and it was like, well, that's an easy $70,000 and high risk, high reward type thing. So he went for it, right? And he eventually
someone else was betting money on the game, and he
And he threw the games.
And he threw the game and got compensated by this person, or did he just bet against himself?
Well, someone came to him and was telling him to throw the games, and they'll pay him money, right? They'll give him $70,000 if he throws them. Mm. And so he did. And they did. They gave him the money, right? And Then I guess 2 years later there was a big match fixing scandal, and quite a few players got caught. Most of them were lesser players, much lesser, and he was like a big fix, like the biggest name who got. They investigated into him, and they're like, "Oh crap!" Well, what they did was they looked at the betting, like right before the match. They saw everyone like switching their bets to him, like or certain like a significant group of people just switching to him because they know he's going to lose or whatever. Like they switching their bets to the right bet, and it just seemed fishy, right? It just didn't seem it obviously didn't organically just happen. So they assumed some sort of conspiracy, and it was.
And people and he got caught because the other people admitted, or did he actually admit it himself?
I don't know. Pretty sure they looked into it. I don't know what happened. I know he was brought to court, and I'm pretty sure the other people confessed, and he probably ended up having to confess. I mean, he didn't. It's hard to deny. And then he was in jail for a year or something, and he was like 19 years old. It is really like it was for StarCraft. It was kind of bad, like obviously, because it's like one of your best players sort of getting doing something that's really bad. Like I mean, match fixing isn't great for the competitive scene. It's bad for the competitive scene because it's like, well,
but it happens in all kinds of sports. At all
levels.
It
happens everywhere. It does. It really does. It's just like it's one of those things like doping, right? And lots of sports where they they blood dope and they do the sort of illegal things to make them perform better.
Mm-hmm.
Like people will do a lot of things with money as their motivator, I suppose. And
but then the interesting thing is sometimes there wind up being false positives. I mean, false positives are definitely a thing. I mean, if we go and we look at blood doping, for instance, my dad had a skier friend who was intending to compete in the Olympics along with a bunch of other people who actually got caught doping.
Mm-hmm.
But he wound up having very high erythropoietin levels, period. He had high EPO levels just because he was a freak of nature.
Because he just was genetically.
Yeah, he was genetically superior, and out of all the clean athletes, he may very well been the best in the world. But he refused. But he refused to put other stuff into his veins. He was like, okay, I'm not doing that to myself, and so he didn't become an Olympian on account of that. But I say this because a few decades prior to that, or was it even a few decades? I think it was even in the 70s. That erythropoietin was used because they actually found it in a Finnish skier in really, really high amounts, and they're like, okay, what does this do? Like, why is this guy completely? Why is he able to go for a big workout and then just not be out of breath at all? Why does he have so many blood cells carrying the oxygen? Well, it's because he was actually naturally producing it. So you can't eliminate false positives necessarily in any conceivable situation, but as long as the false positive exists, then that gives other people some sort of ability to realize, okay, well, this person has this naturally, let's see what we can do. Or, hey, this person, there's this phenomenon that sometimes people might bet this way, let's see how much we can get away with.
Right, exactly, right.
Because there can be false positives. I mean, there can be.
For sure.
But please do continue. Like this guy was good under pressure. He thrived under pressure. He craved pressure, apparently.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was addicted to pressure and addicted to risk and etc.
So he was your basic ADHD gifted dude.
Yeah.
Probably pretty extroverted ADHD gifted dude.
I would not be surprised at all if he was gifted. I mean, the way he played the game, the way he approached it, was quite smart, and it was quite psychological. He was just really, really good. I mean, the people playing this game at the top level are no joke. Like, really, they're no joke. It's like they're putting in 12 hours a day for years.
To be good enough to play at that particular level.
Right, exactly. And there is a lot of motivation economically to play at that level because the prize pool and the salaries like it's not like they're not like, oh well, I'm barely subsisting off of this, like no, like the top players are like really like they're making lots of money.
But even
And
the mediocre top players, so like top 1 or 2%, or I'm guessing probably top 1/10%, could conceivably make at least some money.
yeah, probably when you say top 1/10%, I think those people could make some money. Yes,
And then
some money.
and maybe some of them wouldn't necessarily compete, but they could. I'm just teach other people how to play and
Yeah, oh yeah,
improve
they
their
could do
game.
that. You're right. There's coaching, and they make money. I know specifically some players who do that, who are like Grandmaster League, which is like top 200 in each region of the top 200 players, and they they're basically, if you're a Grandmaster, even if you're a master, you can start coaching and be like, hey, I'm a master player, I'm coaching. Like, and master players want to get better, so
So
there's
20 or 200. So basically, how good you are and how good you are with people tells you whether or not you're going to get 20 an hour or 200.
yeah, right, exactly, yeah, for sure. No, if it's like a pro coaching you, yeah, then you're gonna have to pay a lot more money.
I'm sure.
I don't even know which pros do coaching, but yeah, theoretically, yes, you would have to. And yeah, no, and there's certain other players. There was another one. His name was SOS, and he only he wasn't like known as the mechanically most crazy player, but he was extremely creative, and he would make builds. Like, so for best of 5 series and best of 7 series, you have who your opponent's going to be generally, and you can prepare build. Like, he prepared a build specifically for his opponents. Whether that cater to their weaknesses, whether it just be weird, and he would do different builds each time. So in a best of series, the more games there are, the bigger this guy's advantage is because
because he didn't only have one build that he had prepared, but he had said, okay, if X person goes and chooses this particular strategy, I will do this.
Yeah, right, exactly, and
if the person chooses the strategy again, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to adapt to whatever their adaptation is likely to be.
Right, exactly. And predicting their adaptations, like, okay, well, they saw me do this, so now they're going to do this, and then sort of like playing with the opponents that way.
But then the question is, okay, what level of next level thinking is good? Because you can go if you get that wrong, you can shoot yourself in the foot big time.
Right.
It's like, okay, is this person next level thinking, or are they next level thinking? So do I go here or do I go here? Or
exactly, and he's just good at doing that. And he was good at just coming up with builds that you'll never see on the ladder. Like, you'd never, like, these players practice a shit ton on the ladder and against opponents, but these are builds you'll never see, and he'll never even use them again. And his name, they nicknamed him like SOS. They just replaces the S's with dollar signs because he would win $100,000 tournaments, like a lot. Like, I think he's won like $300,000 tournaments because he's just really good in best of series, and and while he's not an amazing player on the ladder, and I mean, he's great. I mean, he's obviously great on the ladder, but he's not like, he's not in the top 10 of the region on the ladder. But he's
top 100.
Very good. Oh yeah, he's top 100. Yeah, top 50, easy. Probably in the top 20. But like the difference is like
so conceivably this could be due to the fact that on the ladder he doesn't want to go and reveal his strategies and go and force himself to do new things.
That could definitely be part of it, and also a ladder game is the best of 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's not as much room to create strategy around like how your players, like it's sort of like, okay, I'm just going to do a standard build. And also on the Korean ladder, like I looked at the top players, they're all barcodes, so they're just like their name is like I over and over again, so you don't know who's who, so you can't really get too much information out of like it's like, well, I'm playing this guy. I know he likes to play this style. I know he is weak against this, etc. Like, it's just a barcode in a race. Like, it's really hard to tell who it is.
Well, and I'm assuming that that's intentional.
Oh yeah, very intentional. They don't want to, show their hand. They don't want people to know who they are. But you could also say someone was saying this. That could be a weakness because not all pro players do it. Because in tournaments when people play you, they know who they're playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to play as your own self, because there's pros and cons. So it's it's up to you to evaluate, but it's good to play as yourself, because essentially, like, when you're playing in a tournament, they know who you are, and they're going to try to be exploiting your weaknesses. So with your ladder practice, you'd want them to try to be doing the same thing. Like, oh, I know this is this guy, so I'm going to try this. Like,
So in other words, you want to expose yourself to getting hit from every conceivable direction to
right, exactly. So you get stronger and learn to, instead of just hiding them. And so yeah, I think there's arguments to be said for both, because also if you are trying different new strategies and you want to see how they work on people, you don't want those just getting leaked or whatever and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I think it really depends on what type of player you are. If you're a really well-rounded player who doesn't have many blaring weaknesses, I think it's fine to go under a barcode if you're trying new builds. But if you are a player who's known to be weak in a certain way, like, it's probably like hurting yourself, because people aren't gonna,
because you're not going to ever improve.
Yeah, like, it's not going to get exploited to the full extent that it would be in a tournament play. So yeah, it's really interesting, and yeah, but the Koreans are the best at StarCraft. They're the best at, like, all esports, because I think it's their culture. What I know about Korea and their culture is that in the late latter half of the 20th century, they underwent extreme economic growth, as I understand it. And they really, like, I guess they got new administration, new leadership, and they, like, really, like, they wanted to catch up with the rest of the world and, like, become an economic power themselves. And so there was this culture, like, basically cultivated this culture of, like, success, working hard, and, like, they, like, became very high tech very quickly, like, their technology, and yeah, their like, they just worked really hard
That's actually one of the reasons that I got along so well with Korean students that came over to the United States.
Right. They work.
The culture is really good. In fact, people from East Asian cultures that wound up either first or second generation coming to the United States,
right,
having that particular kind of a home life. Now, of course, you can go overboard and have the whole, tiger mom parenting, helicopter parenting style.
Yeah,
but
of course.
But in general, having your life predicated upon a set of values that actually values excellence in whatever it may be is a good thing. So you have kids that are like, oh, I want to be a surgeon when I grow up, or oh, I want to be an engineer. It's not like I want to be a movie star or I want to be a princess. They're these.
I want to marry a rich guy.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, so they their culture went through a major shift, and they work really hard, and excellence is and a lot of these StarCraft players were like, some of them were people who were like, well, I don't really enjoy academics that much.
But I'm going to be good at what I do.
But I'm going to be good at what I do, exactly. So that when they play StarCraft, they're trying to be pro, and they're not doing it just for leisure. They're doing it. Okay, I want to be. I want to make this a career. I want to be successful at this. And also, Seoul is an extremely populous area. It's very dense and urban.
Oh yes.
So you have less kids basically being able to, like, oh, let's go play soccer in the street. Like, more, like, there's more indoor activities essentially. So and the internet is quite good.
Well, yeah, you either have South Korea or Finland having the best internet.
Yeah.
Out of anywhere, and well, both of them have the huge advantage of having the population in very few population centers within a country.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have, say, over 80% coverage in a handful of cities, you don't really even have to go out to... Yeah, it's pretty amazing to set the infrastructure in place.
Right, exactly, and I
And then
think
you
they
just
have
need a gigantic
skyrocketed.
ass military in order to defend from your little neighbor to the north. Rocket
Right, exactly.
Man.
But yeah, so they have just a bunch of kids who are, whatever esport it is, that like League of Legends, like they're dominant, and it's really there's a gulf, like there's a gap. It's been shortening in the recent years between foreigner. Well,
But
you're
it, but
considered
but it still exists. I recall there was this person who was in League of Legends. It was like Diamond or a Challenger player or something
right.
who had
Mhm.
who makes an account and puts it into some high level, and
Yeah.
then lets people say, "I think I deserve to be ranked this."
Hmm.
And so there was this one person who was ranked, I think, bronze or silver or something really low in Korea.
Yeah.
And they put him into I think it was a diamond game or something like that in another region, and he just stomped everyone.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
okay,
Exactly.
so the worst players there are
Yeah.
better than the top 3% of players somewhere
Right.
else.
Right. And in StarCraft, like at the top competition level, like in the normal ladder, you won't see too much difference. Like their leagues are harder, but it won't be like their bronze. Like bronze is shitty everywhere, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the pro level, you get, especially like race specific. Like if the race is quite if the race has a high skill ceiling, there's going to be a larger gap between the players because the Korean players will have.
All right, and for our viewers, what do you mean by race?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, good point. In StarCraft, there's three
because
races.
because here we are having a racist conversation, or at least what could be construed as a racist conversation,
Oh,
even though I think it's about.
You're right. That does sound like, yeah. Well, certain races can do this better. No, race in StarCraft is like Protoss, Zerg, or Terran, and so there's three races to play, and when pro players don't, oh, I'm gonna play random. Like, no, they pick a race they're gonna play, and they practice more with that, specialize, of course, and yeah, like Terran has a very high skill ceiling, and you'll find that Korean Terrans are like a step above anywhere else. Like, it's so different. Like
So
the
so so so
European.
so or is it a so by skill ceiling, and I'm just going to clarify so we get our terminology right. So
Yeah,
the
yeah, go
skill
ahead.
floor is the basic skill that you need in order to be able to somewhat competently play. And then the
Right.
skill ceiling is the maximum
best
level
you
to
can
which
play.
you can exploit something. So you
Right.
could conceivably have something that you're able to do more with than another one, but it
Exactly.
necessitates a greater amount of personal skill. Therefore, if you have an
Right.
average person, that might not necessarily be the best thing, because if you're average, you might just fall over
Yeah.
and be crap.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's right because this race, the Terran is considered the hardest race to play, and I mean, at the lower leagues, it's not going to make too much of a difference. If you're diamond with one, you could probably be diamond with the other race. Could probably be diamond with the third race. But at the highest levels, being a top level pro Terran is harder, or like you'll find that those guys are the most impressive with what they can do. Like their skills are the most impressive in a purely mechanical way in the way they use their race. Because there's great players from the other races too, of course, like very good players, but they exploit. It seems for like Zerg, for especially, it seems more like a psychological exploit from what I've seen, and the way you play, like your game strategy matters a lot more than like the specific units you're using. So in Zerg, like if you're attacking from all different places, even if you have weaker units and you don't need as much micro, like timing matters a lot. But
All right.
for
So
Terran,
micro,
like
that would mean what?
moving your movements, units. So like there's two things in StarCraft. There's macro and micro. Macro is like building, continuously building workers, making units, keeping your money low. Because you have workers getting resources for you, and then you want to expand as the game goes on to get more resources. But you also want to be spending those resources as they come. Like only late game will a bank really matter. Like, okay, well, now that I have the max amount of units that you can possibly have, it's good to build a bank so that if I lose part of my army, I can replace it. But normally, like throughout the early and mid game, you want to keep your resources low, so you're maximizing. Like you're climbing up that tree to the late game later or earlier, or you have more units out. You have more upgrades.
So basically, you invest into exponential growth, and this is mechanically something you need to do. You can't just go and automate the process. You need to actually go and click things and do things.
You have to do it right. You can't automate exactly.
So basically you need to be able to, as soon as you achieve, or as soon as you get some sort of a resource, you need to be able to put it to good use. And the quicker you do that, the quicker you'll exponentially grow.
Right.
So even milliseconds here and there and everywhere will, over the course of a game, add up.
Add up, yes. And what you said about especially where it goes, like that's an important part, is like, well, do I build workers or do I build fighting units? Like, are they going to be attacking me soon? I shouldn't build units, or do I have time to be greedy and build a bunch of workers? Like, there's a lot of decision making going on at every step of the way. And so there's people with really good macro who keep their money low and have large armies early, and like that's, I mean, but all pros have good macro. Like, so certain ones have better than others, but micro is where, when I see pros, macro for low-level players is what sets apart a good, like, a diamond player from, say, like, a platinum player. Because, like, no one in those leagues is spending all their money correctly, and they're running out. So if you're spending your money correctly, you don't even need great micro, which is control of your units. So literally specific control of, okay, like stutter stepping your Marines, for example, or like being very quick and doing like splitting and stuff like that. Like, it's literally just boxing and moving your units around with your mouse. That's micro, and using the units, like, so specifically unit movement purely.
So macro is a combination of. So macro is basically the economics of the game that you're playing.
Yeah, specific. Yes,
and micro is micromanagement of the resources, or of the. So micro is almost troop movement.
Yeah, troop movement. It's literally troop movement. And so what you'll see is that on the lower leagues, your micro doesn't matter that much. Most people are pretty bad at micro, and even if you're good at micro and bad at macro, it doesn't matter because your opponent's just gonna have a bigger army than you, and it doesn't matter.
So it doesn't matter if your opponent has 4 times your force, even how good you are.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how efficiently you use your force; they're gonna die. Like, it's as simple as that. Okay. So the lower leagues, your macro matters more. But at the upper leagues, like high level, micro is often a separator. In Terran, that's part of the skill ceiling. They have much more micro potential in each of their units, specific units, especially their base unit, and so they can really they really can exploit that, and they can leverage pretty strong advantages in each engagement and be very cost efficient and lose less resources per engagement and stuff like that. But at the same time, if they don't macro correctly, they'll die. So yeah, that's why Terran has the highest skill ceiling, and it's pretty high, like among pro players. So even in Europe, the pro players are really good. Of course, they do it. It's still their career, but they're not even close to the Korean Terrans. Like, they just aren't. What the other races, they're closer in skill, but like Terran, like, no, it's not that close. There's a gulf, and there's still golf. The top tournament right now, and interestingly, in StarCraft, foreigners are anyone who's not from Korea. Like, foreigner, it's just, you're not from Korea, you're a foreigner. And in the top tournament, which is called the GSL, there's like 3 of them per year. There's 3 foreigners in the round of 32 right now. One of them I'm really excited about is a 16-year-old Zerg. He reminds me a lot of Life, who's the player I was mentioning earlier, this guy who got banned. He's a Zerg player just like Life was, and plays very aggressively and very, like, he does like multi-prong harass a lot. One thing in StarCraft, so this is also, it's really interesting to talk about, actually. So any pro player, like, you have a build, right? So there's a thing called a build order, which is, okay, well, I'm going to make this many workers here at this supply number, or at this time in the game I'm going to expand, at this time I'm going to do this, upgrade, etc. And so people have a build they're going to do, and And pros have very optimized builds, and not only they're very good at executing their build and not making mistakes. And then by this time, I'll have this much army, and then I'm going to attack, etc. That sort of thing. I'm gonna and
So,
like
okay, so the build order is for kind of contextualizing and giving an analogy, almost like a business plan.
Right, and they
Okay.
yes, and you want to stick to your build order as much as you can, because not only are you if pros are bringing out a build order in a game, they've practiced it thousands of times.
So that means you know what you're doing. You don't have to think about it, and that allows you
Right,
to allocate
exactly.
mental resources to contingency planning and so on.
Right, you don't have to think on the fly as much. A lot of it's like automated in your head. You're like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this, and they, yeah, it's practice a lot, and pros are very good at executing their build orders. And one of the good ways to get good at the game is to learn a build order and then just practice it and stick to it. And instead of just freestyling, where you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to build what I feel like I should build. Like, that's making a lot of decisions. And if you have to spend time to think about what you're doing, your macro is going to go down, because you're not going to be spending that money as it comes. It's going to be, okay, let me think about the money's
Let me
rising.
think about what I got to do, as
do
opposed to, okay, this is exactly what I'm doing. Boom, 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 boom.
Right, exactly, precisely. And so in StarCraft, you can only have your
So
screen over
basically,
one
you're
thing
screwing up investing in the exponential growth curve if you take too long to think about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah,
But if your
right,
plan
exactly.
sucks anyway, you're still hosed.
Yeah, it's still bad. Right, precisely. So in StarCraft, since you can only have your screen over one thing at once, and you can only do certain things like.
Well, I'm assuming there are
you
key shortcuts for moving your camera places, aren't there?
Yeah, there is. There's key short, but your camera can still only be in one place, right? Yeah, you can't like split and be like, well, I'm looking at this side of the map and this side of the map at the same time. Like, no, your screen is over one thing at a time.
Okay.
And you can move very quickly between them, but yeah. So what Life did, which was that guy I was talking about, and what this new player who's 16, so he reminds me a whole lot of Life, the way he plays. What they do is they really they tax your in StarCraft, especially among pros. What I've been noticing recently is like, okay, it's like, well, how do you differentiate how good pros are? Like, because they're all pros, they're very good macro. Their macro is not a good place to differentiate. Certain players, yes, will have very notably exceptional macro, but at the same time, so does mostly everyone has great macro. Micro is a place, as I said, a place you can differentiate, but even more than micro, multitask. So how good are you at doing things?
So how good are you at taking your opponent and dividing their limited attention amongst things that they're not prepared to deal with, so that they wind up having to waste precious time and energy thinking about what they have to do instead of doing
exactly, and basically directing your opponent's attention to certain things, and then doing something else while their attention is distracted, and attacking in multiple places. Like you'll see there's observers in StarCraft. Like when you're watching pro matches, there's a guy who's observing, and he has only one screen too, and he's zooming in and out, looking around, looking at engagement, etc. And you'll notice really good pro players, the observer will struggle because oh god, he's attacking over here. Oh, let me move. And you see them moving over, seeing all the attacks. And it's really hard to follow it all.
So even though you're not there trying to even react to it in your own on your own, just casting the game like a sportscaster in and of itself would be difficult due to the fact that the person has gone and is capable of thinking through this stuff so quickly and so well.
Right, exactly, and just attacking in multiple areas. Yeah.
So basically, so basically, you're dealing with a bunch of gifted people that are playing at the high levels.
Yeah, the high levels, it helps to be gifted for sure, and in mechanically gifted for sure. Literally, their mechanics are really good, and it's really. What Life did a lot was he did stuff like that. He'd attack in multiple locations at once, split everyone's attention, and you'll see their army. They'll have all together, and they look stupid. They're going back and forth between their bases, just defending everything, while they're just getting basically picked apart from all sides. and they're like, well, like it's like just difficult, really difficult to when people attack you in multiple places at once and they split your attention. It's just so hard that throws off your build order. Like everything goes to shit, and it really like it's people can get tilted, and as I said before, like the snowball effect where oh shit, like I didn't defend here, and now I'm not defending here, and you like will fall apart basically. And so this young kid is doing that exact style, and really, he took apart, like he won, he got through the round of 32 GSL his first time, and he's 16. He turned 16 like last week as well, so he's young. And he played incredibly intelligently. Not only did he plan the series well, like in his builds, and he reacted to what the other player he thought would be doing, but also during the game when things would go awry, he would switch his strategy quite well, and like he was behind in some games against this guy who was in the top 4 of the GSL before, like literally the season before. So like a few weeks ago, this guy was in the top 4 of all 64 players trying to try, all 64 top pros in the world. So this guy's great, and he's considered one of the best for his race in the world. But this 16-year-old 2-0'd him, and really, really impressively as well. And it was quite awesome to watch. And he did this like multi-prong attacking, and just, I mean, it made him look stupid, made the guy look bad, basically. I was like, wow, this is just like that other guy that I watched and I liked. And it was really, and the commentators were quite excited. They're like, well, this guy has, like, this is, when you see how they're approaching the game, you can tell, even because not everything's perfectly polished, because he's not at his final form yet. He's still young, and he hasn't played as much as the other guys. But you can see how he's approaching the game and how it's correct and how it's quite like this style is very difficult to play against, and it's quite like, and someone who can think about the game in this way is like, this kid is so obviously gifted, it's not even funny. Especially like the way he plays is just incredibly smart, and it's really exciting to watch. But yeah, it's interesting, like the splitting people's attention and drawing them certain places and just throwing them off, and because everyone's good, right? Everyone's a great player, but like it just makes it hard.
So getting other people off their game is.
That's a big part of the game, is knocking people off of their game and playing in a way that they don't get to go up. Everyone has a game plan, right? You want to just throw them off of it, so they're in deep water with no life raft, and so it's quite interesting. And certain races are more equipped for harass. Terran is. They can do multi-prong easier, but their army units, like Terran doesn't want to be attacking as a huge bunch. Because if they're playing against Zerg, they're going to get swarmed. Protoss units are just generally stronger. But they have a lot of potential to split their army up and do that. So that's part of the reason why Terran has a higher skill cap. Or a skill ceiling, I should say, yeah. But yeah, that's sort of the whole spiel, I guess. Any viewers wanting to know anything about StarCraft would have learned quite a bit about the basics here. But yeah, I think it's just incredibly interesting. And I like watching the pros. I'm not nearly that good.
What level are you?
But I like it. I'm Diamond level, basically. And I haven't played much 1v1. I plan to. I want to get to Masters, which is like the top 2 to 4% of players. And I think Diamond's like probably top 10%, top 20%, I don't know. But the people who play this game, like it's not like some casual game, right? Like people who play and ladder on this game, because it is considered a very hard, very difficult game, probably the most difficult game that you can play in esports. Like, it's more difficult than League of Legends, all these things. It has extremely high, I'm telling you about differences between pros, right? So the skill, like, the learning curve is really high. Like, it's just continuous, right? Like, in League of Legends, a lot of it's harder to differentiate, what I found. It's harder to differentiate pros from each other just because, they're all doing everything nearly perfectly, and then one mistake will screw everything up. But in StarCraft, there's a much more... There's a higher skill ceiling, and the learning curve is just longer. So it's not very, it's hard for people to get into StarCraft just because everyone just sucks so much.
So there's a pretty high skill floor just to get in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we have, okay. Standard League Bronze 8% of players. So Silver 20% of players. So now we're at the 28th percentile. Gold, 32% of players. So 28 and 32, so that gives you the 60th percentile. Platinum will take you up to the 80th percentile. Diamond is 80th to 98th percentile.
Yep.
And Master is top 2%, and Grandmaster is top 200 players.
Right, in the region. Yeah. Yep. And so I'm a Diamond player. I could maybe break into Masters with a bit of play. I have quite good mechanics. That's one thing. Like I have very high APM, which is actions per minute, and I have good micro, and I have good unit control. But I have ADHD, and I'm pretty bad at timing, and I'm quite I don't pay attention to my mini map enough. So you have your mini map, and you have vision on the map. And when you see red dots coming on the mini-map, you can react quickly. And that's one thing pros do, is they look at their mini-map quite a lot. And I'm just bad at paying attention to things, so I often neglect that, and then things surprise me when they shouldn't. So yeah, I've been trying to work to get better at that sort of thing. And my macro is pretty decent.
Well, I'll bet you, not knowing a single thing about StarCraft myself, that I could help you with that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would definitely be interested.
Yeah, and it's gonna, and I promise you, it will be an absolutely. What I would do is well, I mean, there'd be the really sophisticated way and the almost that sophisticated way. There would be two ways I would have. One would be eye tracking software. Look at where your eyes look, and then count how many times per unit time you look at your mini-map.
Right, and you should be. I actually thought about that yesterday, not yesterday, but a few days ago. I wanted to see if they've done it with pros eye tracking. I'm sure they have.
Probably.
And see where are they looking on the screen most of the time. I'm sure it's their mini-map. Most of the time they're probably looking at it, or very often.
So what I would do is I would. Have this, okay, so let's say, for the sake of having the number, let's say you look at it every 10 seconds. You probably are looking at it more often than that, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say that you look at it every 10 seconds. Well, that means you have a timer that beeps every 9 seconds. And do that for 3 or 4 days. Then have a timer that beeps every 8 seconds. And do that for 3 or 4 days. And then 7, just progressively improve. And then once you get to 4 seconds, then 3.9, 3.8, or you could try 3.5. You basically get to the point where you're right at that level. You figure out where that level is, where you find it difficult to divvy your attention, and then parse it into littler bits.
Right.
Go from 4 to 3.8, 4 to, and then realize, I can't do that. Okay, 4 to 3.9. Okay, I'll stay here for a week. And then you will gradually expand your... Yeah, that's what I would do. And the way I would know the starting point would be looking at your eyes. But if you don't know the starting point, well, then just keep on pulling your timer down until it starts to get hard.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my strategy. And that's coming from someone who does not know how to play StarCraft at all.
Right, exactly. No, but yeah, it's a great idea, actually. I might have to try that. And that is one of the things they mention, good players. They're like, well, when you get better, because there's YouTubers who of course do tutorials and talk about getting better, and they're quite good. There'll be some Grandmaster players. I know, there's a few Grandmaster YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
There's one main one, and then there's some High Master players who are quite good. And, he's like, well, when you practice, you should be practicing one thing at a time. Okay, well, I always get supply blocked. You need to build certain units or certain structures, depending on your race, to raise your supply. The max supply is 200, but it doesn't just, you infinitely just scale up. You start with, all right, I have 12 out of 14 units. Okay, now for Zerg, I build an Overlord, and then now I have 12 out of 22 units. An Overlord gives you 8 supply more that you can build other units with. And the Overlord does nothing by itself, really, besides you could use it to get vision. But you need to continuously do that as you grow macro-wise. You need to continuously, get more of these things so you can have a higher max supply. It's if you're expanding your civilization, you need more food, for example. You're making your carrying capacities bigger until it hits the max one, which is 200. for like game reasons. Like it would just be silly because then people would just it would just get ridiculous, and the CPU would drop and all that stuff. But essentially, so yeah, you need to continuously do this, and that's another thing that I often screw up on is I'm like, oh shit, I'm supply blocked. It's supply blocked when you have your max supply and you're trying to make more units and you can't because you haven't made enough of the supply things, and it's just easy for me to lose track of that sort of thing with especially with being very easily distractible and being bad at habits. But if you practice that alone by itself, like, okay, this game I'm not going to get supply blocked, so you're really paying attention to that, you'll get in the habit of naturally just looking at that sort of thing, and you'll get better at it, and you can improve much quicker by
And I'm going to interrupt again and say, I already know that you have the wrong attitude toward improvement because you said look at it this game. No, look at it this month.
I mean, wait, what do you mean? Say that again. Like
you said, okay, this game I'm going to focus on not getting supply blocked.
Oh no, you have to do it for a while.
Like, no, this month I'm going to focus on not getting supply blocked, and I'm going to analyze every single time, and I'm going to make sure that I don't run into the same mistakes that I've made in previous games in my upcoming games. See, I don't even know what being supply blocked is, and I can.
No, yeah, no. What I was mainly meaning to say, like, if you're practicing, if you're like want to practice a game, like, okay, well, I want to get better. Any game that you're practicing, you should be focusing on what you're weak at and ironing out these weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can focus on like, okay, strategy comes after the mechanics and the basic macro mechanics and basic micro mechanics of the game. Like,
so then you would be okay then if you would to just pick some master players or grandmaster players a build order and just blindly follow it and do it better than other people that will still take you up to an incredibly high level without even having to strategize.
Yes, pretty high level, yeah. Like, you could get to Diamond League mostly. That's usually where it stops. By just picking a build and executing it well. And obviously you need different builds for different races, but if you had a build for each race and you execute it well, you'll get to Diamond pretty much. Like, you'll get there. Because most players don't have... I mean, if you watch, like, I don't know. Like, if I play Gold League players, it's not even close. Like, they don't macro correctly. I have, like, double their army size. Like, it's not even close. And it's like that. And then if I play Masters League players, it's going to be really hard for me to win because they do things correctly. And there's, my advantage is just not as evident because they're doing everything correctly. And they also have good strategy as well. And then in Grandmaster League and in the pros, the difference is like purely, as I said, like everyone's doing the macro and everything correctly. It's strategy, it's multitasking, it's all this other stuff. And transitioning and decision making and all this really becomes important. So it's not like chess where everyone is like, because it's kind of like chess, but like it's not because
except for the exponential curve would be way more steep, right? Unless you really suck.
Yeah, no, and to get better, you're not like it's not like okay, let me just learn more openings. It's like no, you have to just literally get the basics down. It's kind of like chess if, like, moving pieces was really hard. It's like, well, I have this great strategy, but I can't actually move the piece to the right place because my hand is too weak, kind of thing. Like, that's a weird analogy, but that's sort of what it's like.
Well, you're not taking turns in StarCraft, to my understanding. It's all concurrent.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's all concurrent, yeah. Exactly. And that, yeah, you have to be doing everything real time and keeping up with it.
So I'm not there waiting for you to go and make a move before I do something.
No, everyone's doing everything at once, and everyone can attack at any time, and things can happen anywhere. So yeah, it's but it's as a game, it's most games I get quite bored of, like really bored of. I'm like, well, this is like I'll get decent at it, and I'm like, well, I'm just not having much fun. But with StarCraft, I have a lot of fun, and I'm like, wow, like this is hard, and this is like, I mean. Like when I get better at it, it's quite rewarding. I'm like, wow, awesome! I can do that. I used to not be good at that. Now I am, and it's really hard. So it attracts a certain audience.
Omar Bessa if I'm not mistaken, you guys may know him from Quora. I believe he plays Dota 2.
Yep, Dota 2 is also pretty hard. It's known of all the MOBAs, I think it's the hardest one. League of Legends is like pretty easy comparatively to Dota 2. StarCraft is still the hardest. StarCraft 1 and 2, I don't know. I think StarCraft 1 might be harder, but it's also much more antiquated and it's not as like current, so it's not as fluid as StarCraft 2. And
okay, so basically StarCraft 2 is prettier and makes people feel better while playing, but StarCraft 1 is like a challenge.
StarCraft 1, part of the reason why I think it's harder is because the unit movement is shitty. Like, the pathing is bad, like, so it makes micro much harder. Like, your units don't do what you tell them to do. You have to, like, it's
you have to be extremely explicit and on top of everything in order for it to actually work.
Right, for them to do what you want, exactly. Because the pathing was bad. Like, when they programmed it, it just wasn't up, they didn't have nearly as good technology as they do now, so units will do really stupid things, and you have to babysit them and make sure what you want them to do is what's happening.
Okay, so one of them is like dealing with people, the other of them is like dealing with. I'm sorry.
Right, exactly. There you go.
So StarCraft 1, you're dealing with people. StarCraft 2, you're dealing with. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Oh yeah, no worries.
Oops.
Oh well. But yeah, I think Omar's played a little bit of StarCraft too. I've seen him talk about it in an answer before.
Well, I would love to. I would love to get started, but the thing is, I know what would happen. Is I would either just not be interested, or I would be so interested that
it like impedes, right?
Well, yeah. I have to decide. Okay, I'm quitting this because I have other things that I know that I'm never going to be able to devote enough time to the game to be able to make 6 figures a year playing it. So
yeah, right.
So that
exactly.
I don't have the time on the front end in order to be able to invest in. Now, if I were 12 years old and I wanted to do that, and I could, conceivably, let's say I were homeschooled and got all my stuff done by Monday at midday, and then I just practiced every single day from midday until dinner, and then from dinner until bedtime, yeah, I could conceivably expect to be on top of the ladder in 3 years or sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I could still get plenty of sleep, because then, okay, so Monday at midday, okay, so that gives you what? It gives you enough of a day to be able to get 8 hours of sleep and practice StarCraft for 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And still be able to, okay, or let's say you practice 12 hours and spend 4 hours a day taking care of your body and getting in shape and, eating right, exercising, and so on. So those are the kinds of things that you can't, as an adult, go and decide, okay, I'm going to do this, unless you pretty much are already financially independent or don't have any dependents.
Exactly.
So the only thing I could ever do is hope to be able to enjoy the game, and since it requires that much of an upfront investment to even be good, I don't know if I'd ever get into playing StarCraft.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why it just doesn't attract, it's like people like the story as well. Like there's a campaign and there's like story mode, and it's kind of interesting story and stuff like that. I was not very attracted by that. Like I haven't even finished the story mode at all. I liked to just multiplayer. I thought it was quite fun, and
I'm assuming that it's not necessary to know the story to be able to play the game.
No, not at all. People who only play campaign and they come to multiplayer from playing campaign get absolutely throttled by everyone, because in the campaign, you don't.
The campaign is. I'm assuming the campaign is made to be almost like a movie that you watch that anyone can get through after screwing up a couple times.
They have different difficulties, but yeah, if you play on easy, you'll get through.
So you play on easy, you basically get a chance to see what this story is, and if you play on hard, you almost get a chance to see what the story is with a few oopses. Oops, I done screwed up. Let's go to our last save point.
Right, precisely, and And yeah, so
And it's just so funny. You could just guess how all this stuff is going to turn out. It just,
yeah, oh
oh,
yeah,
because you know the
yeah,
psychology of why people play games.
right, exactly. Yeah, you can intuit a lot of what's gonna happen, and yeah, and that's part of the like it just doesn't appeal to beginners. Like for you said, it's a time sink to get good at it, to get decent at it. You have to spend like, and it's not like a game where it's like, oh, like Fortnite or I don't know, like I killed someone, that's rewarding. Like no, you're gonna just get hammered for your first 20 games, like just absolutely destroyed by everyone, and you're like you won't know what's going on. And like I have a lot of like since I know about the game and I've looked into it, like and I've watched YouTube videos and I've listened to pros and I've watched pros throughout the years, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on. But like if you go in blind, like you're just gonna get like absolutely destroyed and like not really know what's going on and why. And it's really frustrating for beginners, so it doesn't attract like new players very easily and very often.
Yeah, I'd assume, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and if I'm overestimating my own abilities or something, but I'm guessing that were I to begin studying right about now, if I wanted to learn, so I would basically get the materials, I would download the game, and I would just start playing, and then come up with a plan that I would follow. Like after going and getting shafted for 20, let's just say I spent 3 days and 20 games just taking it, and and then contemplating on what it is that happened, and then coming up with a plan of getting better. I'm guessing it would probably take me, if I were to devote enough time to make it a full-time job, about a month to hit diamond or mid-diamond or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair. A month to hit diamond, yeah. I would say, yeah, that sounds, especially when you're saying how you like reflect. A lot of people, and a lot of especially lower leagues, they don't reflect on why they lost a game. They just queue up the next game, and they don't like look. You can look at your replays, right, and you can like find your errors and stuff like that. And like pros will do very focused practice. At least the best pros, where they're like, okay, well I was screwing up here. Like they'll look through their replays and peruse it for like any errors they're making and try to like be conscious of this and again. And that's a really good way to improve. And especially if you're thinking about what's going on, yeah, you'll get better much quicker that way.
And I would assume at the front end, it would probably be more advantageous to just do games and get used to particular kinds of what was that you say, mechanics. So like where to click and what to do.
Important.
I'm assuming there's probably a tutorial mode that you can do that, so you don't go and jeopardize your ranking just by practicing.
You can play on rank.
Okay, so you can just go and say, okay, I'm going to spend the next 8 hours of play practicing one particular mechanic. And you queue up for 8 hours of play, practice the mechanic, and don't worry necessarily about whether you win or lose. Just have I learned the mechanic? Right. And then you go through all the mechanics that might be necessary. I'm just theory crafting now how I would get good at it. And then after going through all these different mechanics and sucking and probably losing every single game, or nearly every single game unless I get queued up against somebody else who's in the process of trying to learn, in which case I'd probably steamroll him because I'm actually learning.
Right,
That you establish a repertoire of mechanics up to the point where you can conceivably execute a strategy to at least some degree of reasonable expectation of completion. And then after that, and then after that, it's a question of, okay, look at my replay, analyze it, and move forward. Because if I get an extra win, right, that would cause me to get ranked against higher players next time, right? The more you win, the more higher players you get ranked against. It's not just random ranking, is it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be awful.
So then
Masters players would just like
slaughter everyone.
Yeah, they wouldn't play any. They 2% of players they would meet would be like at their level.
It's like, okay, so I need to play 200 games in order to even have a handful of things that I can learn from. Okay.
Right.
So my idea is, okay, and I'm assuming the more games you play at a level, the more you kind of stagnate, and the more it takes to lift you up.
Yes. Yeah. But the higher you rise, the harder it is to rise.
That wasn't what I was necessarily saying. I was saying that. Okay, let's say that you're gold. Let's say you're high gold. You're right at the 50th percentile mark.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spend there about 1,000 games. I'm assuming that the algorithm will then generally know where you're at and be able to say, okay.
Oh yeah. It is. The more games you play, it like
It'll be harder to climb and harder to descend.
Exactly. It's just like
so
like
you have an advantage as opposed to trying to learn something to over the course of one. Like if you win 101 and lose 99 versus winning two. Winning two is better.
Yeah.
Not only in terms of the time sink, but then also in terms of the fact that you will have climbed proportionately way more.
Yes, precisely.
Which gives you constantly more things to learn. So once you get to the point where you're actually losing games, then that gives you the point to where you actually have something to learn from other people.
Right.
From the people that are teaching you by destroying.
The more games you play, the more set in stone your like ELO or your MMR is, basically. Matchmaking ranking.
Okay, so I assume that it's very similar to the ELO system that they had for chess.
Yeah, it's analogous, pretty much perfectly almost. And obviously the numbers are different, but like, you know.
Well, yeah. So it's not like 2,700 is high grandmaster kind of a thing. It would be just whatever.
2,700 would be like, I don't know, like silver or bronze. I think for me, like I'm at like low 4,000, so like anywhere from like 4,000 to like 4,400 probably. I don't know. I haven't played ranked in a long time. And I just have been doing unranked because I've been just doing team games just because for fun to improve my mechanics, and playing with a team and stuff, and there was less stress to it, and I wasn't as interested in 1v1 at the time, but I'm getting more interested in 1v1, and so I'm probably like 4,000, and that's like mid diamond, low to mid diamond. And there's Diamond 1, 2, and 3. Diamond 1 is top diamond, and then Master starts somewhere in the 4,500s and goes all the way up to like Master 1, you'll be at like in the like 5,000, and then the top Grandmaster is like got 7. The top in the world has like 7,300 MMR, so like way higher, and then like Platinum is like low 3,000s, so like 3,000 to 3,500 is like plat. And then Diamond starts at like 3,600, and then it goes to like 4,500. It's a pretty big league, and
then as so basically once you hit high diamond, that's when it becomes marginally more difficult to improve than just based upon the Pareto distribution in the numbers game.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like if you learn if you learn a build and you just execute it correctly and attack, you'll like go up the rankings. You'll like destroy all the bronze, silver, most gold. You'll probably get into plat with just that, and then by just getting a little bit better at the game in general, you can like get from plat to diamond, and yeah. But yeah, to get from low masters to high masters, like it's a world of difference. To get from diamond to masters, it's different. It's quite different.
That Pareto distribution at this point here, that climb is pretty steep.
Yeah, and then to get from Masters to Grandmasters is very difficult, right? As I understand. I mean, you're at the top 200.
There's a hard number cutoff, isn't there?
Yep.
It's not a percentile thing anymore for Grandmaster.
Nope, just number.
Wait, what was it, top 200 or top 50 or something?
200, yep.
Okay, top 200.
Yep, 200.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that is a hard cutoff. That's like, no matter how many more people come and start playing the game, only the top 200 ever make it to Grandmaster. Yeah. Which means that conceivably, let's say, I don't know, how big is the player base?
I'll have to check that. I have no idea.
Okay, but let's just say that there's 1 million or 10 million players. But if you have the actual figure, we can work with that.
Let me look. I'm checking. Let's see.
I'm assuming that the number of players will only increase with time.
In the world, so let's see. If I go to Legacy of the Void, let's see. Okay, so the current number of ranked people in each region, there's 333,000 in the world.
Okay, so 333,000 ranked people in all regions. How many regions are there?
5.
So there's 1,000. Okay, so there's 1,000. So that's top third of a percent. Now.
Yeah.
So let's say that all of a sudden, another 333,000 people come to play ranked.
And it's
and it still is the top 1,000 capped in 5 regions.
Mm-hmm.
That get the grandmaster rating. Well, all of a sudden, you've just gone and made it twice as difficult to become a grandmaster.
Right, and in certain regions, there's more. So, like in the U.S., there's 100,000 players, and in Europe, there's 116,000 players. So it's harder to get in that top 200.
So it's harder to be in the top 200 in Europe than it is in the.
Right, and then in Korea, it's generally, even though there's 40,000 players, it's still harder to be grandmaster just because the level of the players is much higher.
Yeah. If your barrier to entry, or rather just the whole fact that someone would want to play StarCraft there is like, yeah, I only want to do that if I'm going to actually be good at it. And well, since all my competition is good, well, then what's the use unless I can go and destroy them?
Exactly. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And yeah, being grandmasters, no small feat. Usually, it just takes a lot of effort to get in there and a lot of skill, and yeah, and then to be a pro takes skill and natural ability and the time.
So I love how, okay, I would assume that your take on this is very accurate. First off, because you didn't say luck.
Yeah, it's not luck. Hell no.
It's like, he
if
scored high.
He's
luckier than I am.
You're lucky enough to be born in a country with internet and computers. Yeah, I guess. Some guy in a village in Africa is not going to be grandmaster in StarCraft, no matter how much talent.
Although there would probably be an awful lot better things for him to do. I mean, aside from if he would be able to, for instance, accumulate for himself the resources in order to establish the kind of life he'd like to have, then sure, why not?
Right.
Then that would make sense. But, there are a whole lot of other opportunities that were Africa, or at least certain parts of Africa, not so corrupt. There would be better things to do. Now, of course, there aren't many better things to do due to the fact that the governments are so corrupt and enforce a very, very steep Pareto distribution upon the populace.
Right.
Amongst the, so that the elites can always remain elite and not have to deal with the inevitable turnover that freedom has in the Pareto distribution.
Yeah.
Or on the Pareto distribution. Sorry, I can't even talk now.
But yeah, no, it's not luck. It really isn't much luck. Since it's a 1v1 game, like League is a 5v5 game, League of Legends. And it's really easy to, when you lose, just be like, oh, my teammates, they suck.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Dota 2 and League of Legends are both the same in that you're playing on a team with 4 bots against 5 bots.
Yeah.
That is the structure of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the bots vary according to probably about a normal distribution.
Right.
Around your skill level. So the only way to climb is to be good.
Well, I mean, like, in competitive and ladder ranking, they do play with other players, and everyone's ranked, like, on their ranking. So technically, there is more room for, like, if you have a horrible player on your team who's just an idiot and just feeds. But still, on average,
okay. So let's say you have a horrible player on your team who's an idiot and who feeds. There's 4 extra players on your team and you. And there's 5 extra players on the other team. So there's 5 bots and 4 bots. So the chances of there being somebody who feeds on your team is less, as is the chance that somebody goes and plays so well that it doesn't matter how well you play, that you're going to just win. What's that called? Called carries. And if someone carries, there's less of a chance of having both a feeder and a carrier on the team with 4 as opposed to the team with 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, you're going to wind up having a statistical distribution of wins and losses. It's not going to be 100% contingent upon you versus everyone, but you're still ultimately going to wind up, say, after playing 100 games,
over time,
you're going to be ranked where you should be ranked.
Supposed to be. Yeah, you will be ranked where you're supposed to be ranked. Exactly.
And then if you improve over the course of, say, another probably 10 games, unless your improvement is drastic and you're still climbing, you're going to be ranked about where you should be ranked.
Yeah, but in StarCraft, the ranking is much more contingent on you, and you don't have teammates to blame if you want to, because people don't think like that. They don't understand that, yeah, they're averaging a ton of games, and, like, on average, like, you're not just going to get horrible players on your team every time, and everyone else is better on the other team, and you get screwed that way. Like, that might happen on certain games just because of the chance, but over time, the more games you play, the less that happens. And pro players can easily climb up back to, like, like, it doesn't take pro players too long because they play so well that they go to the ranking that they're supposed to be. But in StarCraft, it's just 1v1. So, I mean, yeah, there's 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, but, like, 1v1 predominantly. And you can't really blame... like, if you lose, you lose. Like, it's your fault. You lost. Like, you screwed up in some way.
Well, either that or it's that you just got completely outplayed.
Right,
like
exactly.
it might be you played the best game of your life, but you were just not as good as the other person.
And that's hard for people to do.
Or you conceivably played a better game up to every single point, and then you choked once.
Yeah, and then they took advantage of that. Yeah,
I know exactly what that's like. Now that's I don't play StarCraft, but I know exactly what that's like. When I was a competitive radio control airplane pilot.
Right.
I actually needed to learn a whole bunch about how to control my own mental state in order to not choke. I started choking when I would be so far ahead that I would just lose focus and start making stupid mistakes.
Exactly.
And then you go, oh crap. Oh
that
crap,
happens
what
a
have I
lot.
done?
I'm like, oh god, I have such an advantage. I'll just take it easy, and it's like, oh shit, they have an army now.
No. And that's why taking care of your mind is so important, because if you're able to take care of your mind, you will have more focus, and especially being ADHD, that ain't easy necessarily. And but it's completely doable. Did you check your WhatsApp messages?
I just did, yeah.
Okay, so do you think that I'm going to give us a 10-minute intermission.
Yeah,
and
sounds good to me.
We'll begin here.
But one
shortly.
thing before we leave, one thing people in StarCraft do is since they can't blame, well, because most of the blame is yourself. Like, oh, well, I need to just get better. Like, they outplayed me, or I should have scouted better. They're a worse player, but their strategy beat me because I wasn't ready for it. A lot of people do this thing where they complain about the balance. Since there's 3 different races in the game, right, and they're completely different, you'll just be like, oh, that race is stronger. They're just stronger. But the thing is, the win rate for each race hovers around 50% regardless. Like, if it doesn't, then balance needs to happen. And it's very well balanced for how the game is. Like, balance, and especially at the lower levels, balance doesn't come into play. Because everyone makes too many mistakes for balance to really matter. It's like whoever plays better will just do better. And a lot of people just complain about balance, and it's really funny. You'll see them like, oh, this is just too strong. Like, I did everything. Like, they're assuming perfect play, right? When you complain about balance, yeah, if play was perfect, then this person should win. But it's just hilarious, and people blame other races. They're like, oh, well, my race is just weak, etc., etc.
Well, then why did you pick it? I mean, that's the other thing. You go, okay, well, if your race is weak, then why did you pick it?
Yeah, like, why do you do that? They're like, oh, it's so much harder. But the thing is, no one ever complains about another race being too weak. I've never seen that. I've never seen someone say, wow, I destroy Protoss easily. Well, like, they're way too weak. They need to be buffed. I've never heard that. Ever. It's always people complaining about their own race. And that, to me, tells all you need to know. And it's every race that says this. Every person from every race. Mm-hmm. Oh, my race is weak because this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, it's broken. This matchup is broken. Like, it's hilarious. And, yeah. If you read the forums ever, it's just full of this crap.
I see.
And then they propose balance.
Check your messages.
Okay.
All right.
There you go. I'll let you go for the intermission.
All right. See you all on the other side. Right, well, intermission is over and we are live again.
Hello.
Seemingly, we've both gotten something to drink.
Yep.
I've made a nice deposit into the porcelain throne. We need to discuss the nature of the deposit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. Fight or flight, rest and digest. Interesting.
I was resting and digesting.
Yep.
Nice relaxing stream here, Steven.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Listening to
I
you
agree.
listening to you talk about StarCraft and having something intelligent to say, even though I don't have the foggiest idea of how the game works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's good.
this is the way streaming's supposed to go.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. I like, and that's how I feel about a lot of things, is like, even if you don't know how to do something at all, you can generally get a good idea. If someone who understands it is talking about it to you, you can get a good idea of what's important and what sort of, you can approach it from, like, you don't need to know the details first. Like, the details for us come last, right?
Yeah,
So
you get the
you
big
start
picture.
from-
You do the meta thinking first.
Yep.
And then you fill in the details, as opposed to thinking, okay, well, first you do this, then you do that, and then you go run themselves
Right. So
all through one
of my
individual.
friends,
Mhm.
when I was starting StarCraft, one of my friends was like, all right, he just got me in a game, and he's like, okay, build this, press this button, then this button, build this. I was like,
What is the significance of my actions?
I was like, why? He's like, just build it. He's like, you're so bad. I was like, I don't know, I can't learn like this, man. And then my other friend, who is way better at StarCraft as well, was just like, all right, so you should be doing this stuff first. I was like, okay. He's like, all right. And he's explaining the whole time. I'm like, oh, okay, awesome. So, like, it's making sense.
Yeah, and there's no coincidence that one of your friends was better than the other of your friends
Yeah,
at
he's
StarCraft.
masters.
It has to do with
masters quickly too.
And that actually has to do with that article that that I cited in my answer. For those of you not aware, and I'm going to have to probably log into Quora here again. I wrote a question because apparently, when you go and you say things, oftentimes that involves putting your foot in your mouth until you wind up getting a chance to clarify these little things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll link this particular answer. How would you characterize the qualitatively different style of thinking which seems to emerge in people with IQs 3+ standard deviations above the mean? I'll copy the link and put it into Twitch chat for you guys so that you can see what it is that I said, which is ultimately, I can't see anything. Did it go through?
Let me see in the Twitch chat. Yep, it's there.
Oh, good. See, I can't see the chat, so I don't know. But anyhow, it's basically ever since I wrote another answer. It was, as an adult, what do you believe measures intelligence? Or as an adult, what do you believe measures intelligence? Because I said IQ tests do a decent job of giving a replicable percentile-based estimation of people's relative G to ±3 standard deviations from the mean. It's at about the 3 or 4 standard deviation cutoff point, especially in the upward direction, that things start to get difficult, as there is a definitive qualitative change that takes place.
Oh yeah.
So I've been trying to figure out how to simply explain this point for over a decade. The INTJ's NI just kind of picks up on it. It's like, okay, yeah, you can see that there's a qualitative difference in between people who are bright, people who are moderately gifted, and people who are bright, and people that are highly gifted. Like there is a fundamental difference in the way that they think. And you know, at least for me, because I've never known any different, I've viewed it as basically thinking versus not thinking. But then, but then it's like, okay, so how do you explain that? It's like how
it's really hard.
What am I supposed to say?
Because most people, and this is something it's like not intuitive, right? Like most people, when they're like, all right, when someone gets better, it's like an additive thing, right? Like normally people view things as additive completely. So it's like, oh, I'm just getting faster and better and better and better by being. It's like, no, like fundamentally it's different. Like that's just kind of unexpected, right? And like, really interesting to me how that is. Like actually, it's just a fundamental difference that appears at this. We've seen it just appear at about this point. Like it's like, oh, okay, like. So it is.
Yeah, it's the point where the Pareto curve steepens highly.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And so it's really like it's fascinating how that happens. Like I find that really fascinating, the fundamental difference. And yeah, it's just, but it is hard to explain, right? And people in that range, like they don't always appear extremely smart to people outside of the range. They're just like, well, that person's weird. Like, why are they thinking about things like that way? Or, oh, that's just silly. And those people themselves will feel dumb quite often. From what I found, is they're like, well, man, I suck at these linear tasks that these other people are so good at. I must just not be that smart.
And then there's this other thing. There's this and I recall being involved in Hollingworth conferences, which is basically a conference whose namesake was Lita Hollingworth, through conferences for the highly gifted and above and so on. And they had these thinking outside the box themed events. And I was always confused. Like, what box are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you...
Like, what?
Really?
What box? What box? What's going on here? It's like, what is this box? I can't seem to find a box. It's like... I'm assuming this is like some limit as to what it is you're supposed to be able to discuss and think about versus not, and it's like, well, sure, there are things that we don't know. There are things that we don't know. Is that the box? It's like, no, well, I guess people make dumb decisions in life. What are the things that they don't know? What constitutes this box? And,
right.
And I would say that a lot of it would wind up actually being genetically and physiologically defined by how this little organ in between the ears works.
Yeah. It's yeah, I've also always like I can relate when you say like inside the box, like yeah, it's like, well, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Like if you're thinking like yeah, what box are we talking about here? I don't know one.
Or but there is. And the article that I found, I will link it. I will link it in the Twitch chat because the article is way more important than my synopsis. Because the article is the whole thing. My synopsis is just that, a synopsis. And frankly, if you don't have the patience to read the whole article, well, I don't really care. Like, you don't deserve to know what's in it. It's see that there's the INTJ sympathy for you.
Yeah, there you go.
If you don't read this article, you don't deserve to know what's in it. But it's like my dad. There are these things called books. Read them.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Hashtag before the Octothorpe was used as a social media sign. Like, hashtag things my dad says every time I ever ask him a question.
Oh my God. Yeah.
These things called books. Read them.
But then he would. I read this before. Yeah.
Yeah, but then he would actually, stand behind that and get the book. Go to the library or buy a book. Like when Amazon first started selling books, that was like the candy store. Like there was Amazon.com and there was BarnesandNoble.com. And those, oh man, they were amazing. And I had so much fun going and looking through the selection of books online. It's like, okay, what can we learn about now? This is
right. Yeah.
So there was that attitude toward, okay, just learn about it, read it, learn about it. But But going back to the synopsis, I mean, you can read that article, and I'm sure you said you already read it.
Yep, I've read it before, like quite a while, like probably a year ago.
Yeah, and but I think it does a good job of explaining. Like one thing that it states is that the real difference in the way the three types think can be seen in their respective cognitive patterns. Average cognition reasons in a step-by-step fashion. Boom, 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 one step at a time. Mild plus gifted cognition tends towards skip thinking, so you group steps of the step-by-step thing together in order to be more efficient and quick. So you basically do average stuff, except for you're just more efficient at it. And highly gifted plus cognition works in meta thinking, which is finding simple patterns in complex information, perceiving relationships among various seemingly unrelated aspects, and detecting and creatively resolving logical discrepancies and practical problems in non-linear ways. Non-linear being the key here, of course. Okay, now back to it. In meta thinking, one can think about one's thinking, one's ways of learning, knowing, remembering, and understanding, and can apply one's thoughts to big picture or non-linear vision and insight. And then here it gives the example that I don't know. I don't remember, were we talking about this on stream or just the two of us? I think it was just the two of us. The simple is complex, and the complex is simple. This is why high plus gifted people often seem so out of sync with those around them. The question, "How are you today?" can feel extremely complex. Well, how am I about which aspect of your life? Why are you asking? How should I be? How do I integrate this all?
Especially in like personality, like certain personality tests. Like some are easy, like in the I like how the 16 personalities does it, like the Myers-Briggs. It's like, well, they leave kind of. It's like, well, do you like dealing with people, or do you like you can, and I can infer, like, oh, do you like dealing with people, or do you like being more introverted? I can infer that they just mean as a whole, and I can be like, well, yeah, I feel myself being probably more extroverted than normal. Or they're like, do you like details more, or planning, and like it's just a preference, and it's a it's a holistic
preference.
And it's two-sided, so I have no problem answering that. But there was this thing called the Enneagram type or something.
Oh, the Enneagram? Yeah, that was... Oh, man. There's one decent test for that, I would say. And the rest of them are just horse crap.
I struggled so much just trying to answer the questions. They asked very, like what is, and I was like, oh, God. Everyone else in my friends had finished. And I was like still thinking about like some stupid thing, and I was like, I have no idea. These are really hard questions. And and my mom gave me some ADHD handout thing, and it was basically like supposed to illuminate and like make you get basically eke you into a growth mindset. And I knew that. Like I was looking at the structure of the test, I could tell. I was okay,
you know what the intention is.
Yeah, I was like, well, I know what a growth mindset is. Like you don't need to like. They're like, well, how do you feel about yourself? And I was like, oh shit. And then another question was like, well, 3 goals you have for the future. I was like, oh god,
No.
And then
not that goals for the future are a bad thing either. You just no.
That's hard. It's so hard. And
it's like, what are the 3 most important things? Well, I mean, in what aspect?
Yeah, that was one thing. They're like, what are 3? Like, what's the most important thing to you? I was like, oh shit. Like, it's all.
It's like it depends in the context. Am I with my family? Well, then the most important thing is going to be something having to do with my family. Like a lot of it's context dependent. A lot of it's mood dependent. Like if I haven't slept for a long time, well, then the most important thing for me is sleep.
Yeah, it's so freaking hard. Like, that was, like, impossible. I was just suffering through it. I was like, Mom, I can't finish this. She's like, what? This is easy. I was like, this is not easy. And it's just trying to get out of growth mindset. I know what that is. She's like, oh, you know what that is? Oh, okay. It was just really painful. And
the book that popularized that whole idea, or at least popularized the particular terminology, I mean, that idea has been around for basically all of human history. But the book that popularized the terminology, I think it does. There's this balancing act in between, what is it that one is naturally capable of doing, and what is it that the natural capabilities kind of sets the limit for what is reasonable to expect. But then within that particular window, your attitude has a tremendous influence. And the window might be larger than you thought it initially was, just due to the fact that you closed it yourself by your own poor attitude.
Yep.
But just because one aspect of it is largely out of your control doesn't mean that that should be denied. You don't just go and say, oh, well, Bobby with a turd hanging out of his butt, staring into the toilet saying, oh, Bobby, there's some corn in there, Bobby. Look, in a toilet stall, with his butt hanging out the open door, has the same potential as someone who got admitted to Johns Hopkins University to study medicine is asinine. It doesn't work that way.
No, and that does both people disservice.
So yeah, you can know that, okay, well, Bobby can go and have a good attitude, and perhaps he can, earn a few more dollars per hour in his job, and he can make friends, and he can live what would be for him a good life. He would be able to have what he wants, and he would not be taken advantage of by other people. By being surrounded by the right kinds of people. I mean, there are certain things that Bobby can do in order to make his life as good as possible. And then also maybe Bobby's best life is in some measurable way better than your best life. Maybe he's happier than you.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Or me. I mean, that's entirely a reasonable thing to consider. It's like, well, is it happier to be clueless and not have the ability to think on a meta level and understand the impacts of everyone's actions, and then realize, this lovely fragile blue ball going in a thing around an elliptical orbit around the sun, how fragile it is and how stupid a lot of what's going on in this ball is. Like, well, and how helpless any one individual is to do so much. I mean, that's one of the reasons that so many people go into doing big things, is because not because they understand how powerful they are and how they can impact the consequences, but because they have absolutely no idea of how much is out of their control.
Yeah.
No. Granted, the stupidity and the naivety has in many cases helped, and in many cases it's hindered. But this is just a fact of life, and there's so many other things to think about that Bobby can't think about. But maybe he is happier.
Yeah.
So yeah, but both Bobby and you and I and everyone else can have a growth mindset.
Yeah. Precisely.
But don't play the game where you say that Bobby can become a neurosurgeon. I don't want his hands anywhere near my cranium.
Yeah, please.
Just no. Bobby is not cutting my head open.
And then there's a person who's like, well, what if he's a neurosurgery savant?
Let him cut your head open first.
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah.